I was once a celebrated women's health doctor, respected, trusted, even admired in the city's top integrative clinic. My office walls were lined with thank you cards from patients who claimed I changed their lives. Women well into their 60s and 70s came to me desperate for help, their energy drained, their confidence lost, often dismissed by other doctors who told them, "It's just part of aging." But I believed different. I knew different, I had seen first, and that vitality didn't have to vanish with age. My patients weren't asking for miracles. They just wanted to feel alive again, to wake up with energy, to walk without pain, to feel like themselves again. And I found that answer not in pharmaceutical bottles, but in foods long forgotten by the Western medical system. Natural, ancient remedies, specifically one food that stood out. A nutrient, dense hormone, balancing combination of ingredients that had been used by elder women across Mediterranean cultures for centuries. I started recommending it to my older patients, incorporating it gently, explaining its benefits. I watched with awe as they began to change, eyes sparkled, moods lifted, energy returned. One woman told me, "I finally feel like I'm back inside my own body." Husbands called me to say thank you. Grandchildren noticed their grandmothers glowing again. But the more successful my patients became, the more tension I felt at the clinic. Jealousy began to creep in, whispers in the hall. Colleagues who once greeted me with warmth started keeping their distance. The head of internal medicine, a smug man who scoffed at the idea of natural solutions, began sitting in on my consultations without warning. It felt like surveillance. Then came the subtle warnings from the board. They wanted full transparency on every recommendation I made, every diet, every herb, every food. It wasn't about patient care, it was about control. One senior doctor accused me of giving women false hope. Another rolled her eyes and said, "At that age, libido isn't a priority, safety is." I wanted to scream. These women weren't fragile. They were just underserved. But the culture around me didn't care about that. They cared about protocol, about status, about silencing anyone who dared to say that aging didn't have to mean decay. And that's when the sabotage began. I remember the day everything truly fell apart. It wasn't sudden. It was slow, suffocating, like drowning in quicksand. After the anonymous complaints and forced oversight, I tried to keep working with dignity. I tried to keep helping my patients without triggering more alarms. But everything I did was twisted, scrutinized, misinterpreted. Every positive result was ignored. Every setback was magnified. Then came the case that broke me, Martha. She was 71, recently widowed, and battling a lifetime of emotional neglect and physical exhaustion. When she came to me, she barely had the will to talk. She told me she didn't recognize the person in the mirror anymore. I worked with her gently, built trust. I recommended a specific nutritional protocol that included the food I had seen restore feminine energy in so many women. After 3 weeks, her progress was remarkable. She called me crying, joyful, saying, "I feel like someone turned the lights back on." But while I was on a brief conference trip, another doctor in the clinic stepped in, reviewed her chart, and decided to cut it all. She was told to stop everything, no explanation, just the cold message, "This isn't approved care." I returned to find her in the hospital. She had collapsed from a severe episode of fatigue, stress, and blood sugar imbalance. She survived, but when the case was reviewed, it wasn't the doctor who changed her plan that got questioned. It was me. The board held an emergency hearing. They cited irresponsible nutritional experimentation. They claimed I was putting elderly patients at risk by stepping outside standard treatment models. My defense didn't matter. Patient testimonials were dismissed as anecdotal. Science they didn't understand was called pseudoscience. They weren't interested in outcomes. They were interested in obedience. They suspended my license pending investigation, effectively ending my career. I walked out of that room numb. The press got hold of the story. Disgraced doctor risked senior health with unproven advice. One headline read. My photo was plastered online. I became a joke overnight. Friends stopped texting. Colleagues ghosted me. The clinic scrubbed my name from the website like I'd never existed. I spent weeks in isolation, spiraling. I questioned everything. I began to think maybe I had lost touch with reality. Maybe they were right. Maybe older women weren't meant to feel vibrant again. Maybe the system was broken for a reason. But then something arrived in the mail that changed everything. It was a handwritten letter, the kind no one sends anymore. The envelope was soft, with the edges worn from travel. I opened it slowly, almost scared to see what was inside. And then I read her words. Rosa, one of my former patients, 67, a retired schoolteacher who had come to me 6 months earlier after suffering years of post-menopausal fatigue, joint pain, and emotional emptiness. She had lost her husband the year before and told me she hadn't smiled in months, but after following my protocol, she transformed. Her energy came back. She joined a community dance group. She wore red lipstick again. She felt alive. In her letter, she wrote, "You didn't just help my health. You helped me remember I am still a woman. I'm not done living. Don't let them take that from you." I cried for hours. That letter wasn't just a thank you, it was a lifeline. A reminder that my purpose hadn't died with my license. I realized something then. I had been so focused on defending myself to a broken system that I forgot who I really served, not the board, not the clinic. The women, the ones who were still being told that they were supposed to shrivel up and fade quietly into old age, and I knew I had to get away, physically, mentally, spiritually, so I booked a one-way ticket to Icaria, Greece. I had once read about this island in a medical journal, how it was home to one of the world's longest living populations, especially women. No hormone therapy, no aggressive meds, just simple living and ancestral habits. When I arrived, it was like stepping into another time. Women in their 70s and 80s walked with ease, climbed hills, danced in open-air tavernas. Their eyes sparkled, their backs were straight, their spirits were unshakable. I asked them their secrets, I observed their rituals, and every morning, without fail, they consumed the same thing, a thick herbal paste made from black sesame, pine honey, and fenugreek. They didn't take it because it was trendy. They took it because it was tradition, passed down from grandmothers to daughters. They called it mana, meaning nourishment of the soul. It fascinated me, so I took notes, asked questions, studied the ingredients. And the more I learned, the more I understood that I had stumbled onto something that Western medicine had completely overlooked. I began eating it daily, and within days I felt something stir in me again, something I thought was lost forever when I returned home. I wasn't the same woman who had left in defeat. I carried something ancient with me, truth, unpolished by labs or clinical trials, yet powerful enough to light up every cell in a woman's body. I didn't go back to the clinic. I didn't call the board. They had already shown me who they were. Instead, I opened my laptop and recorded a single video, just me, no makeup, no production. I sat at my kitchen table and spoke from my soul. I told the story of the women of Icaria. I explained how their bodies thrived on this sacred blend. I broke down the science, how black sesame seeds are rich in lignans, natural compounds that help balance estrogen, how pine honey is full of boron, a trace mineral that supports bone health and hormone function, how fenugreek has been used in Ayurvedic medicine for centuries to ignite feminine energy. I called the video, "Seniors, Eat This to Restore Feminine Vitality." I hit publish. I didn't expect anything. Maybe a few views, a few women willing to listen, but within 48 hours the video had exploded. 20,000 views, then 100,000, then over 1 million. Comments flooded in from women around the world. "I tried your recipe. Within a week, I felt alive again. My night sweats are gone. I've started dancing again at 68. I feel sexy for the first time in 20 years. It was overwhelming, humbling, electrifying. I started a small website to share more, then a newsletter, then workshops. I began calling it what it was, the Feminine Fire Formula. The very same doctors who once accused me of being a danger to society now emailed me privately. Some begged to collaborate, others asked if I could co-author a research paper with them. I read every message with a quiet, simmering satisfaction. I remembered how they had erased my name, how they sat silently while I was dragged through the mud. And now they wanted in. I ignored them, everyone. I wasn't doing this for them. I was doing it for Rosa, for Martha, for the thousands of women who were told their bodies were broken, for every woman who had been dismissed, silenced, or humiliated by a system that profits off her weakness. I had taken their attempt to bury me and turned it into a movement no one could stop. They tried to silence me, strip me of my title, erase my work, my passion, and my voice, but they forgot one thing. Truth doesn't die in the shadows. It grows, it waits, and when the time is right, it sets fire to everything that tried to suppress it. What they saw as my downfall was just the beginning of my rise. They called it rebellion. I called it restoration. I didn't need their clinics or credentials to remind women of their power. I just needed a platform, a camera, and the courage to speak, because feminine vitality isn't a myth. It isn't a phase that ends at menopause. It's a sacred and waiting to be awakened, not by pills, not by fear, but by nourishment, ritual, and truth. So to every woman who's been told to slow down, to sit quietly, to accept her age, I say this: you are not done. You are not invisible. You are not broken. You are fire. You are movement. You are the wisdom they fear. And this time they can't stop you.